So welcome to another war game review from the... Sorry.
Let's do just kind of first thoughts.
Yeah, I'm going to call it that, though, and then
Okay.
I'll
Yeah, that's fine.
I was thinking of that in my head, and I was like, what am I... Okay.
Supercalifragilisticexpialidocious.
So welcome to another war game review from theplayersaid.com. My name's Alexander.
And I'm Grant.
And today we're taking a look, at least just our kind of first impressions of Nevsky. And this is Teutons and Rus in Collision, 1240 to 1242. What a mouthful.
Yes.
Published by GMT Games, designed by Volko Ruhnke, who's designed some of my favorite games.
Labyrinth,
best game of all
War.
time. Wilderness War, co-designed.
Fire in the Lake with Mark Herman.
I mean, just
Andy and Abyss.
I enjoy his games.
I do too.
So this is obviously a very different style of game to his other ones.
I think that's an understatement. This game is absolutely, totally different than I think anything he's ever done.
And I think it's different from anything most people have done as well.
And I think different than any game we typically play.
Yes. It is very rare that we would play a game anything like this.
Right. But that's not a bad thing.
No.
I think different and new and a different point of view, I think, is a good thing.
Variety is the spice of life, as they say.
Especially in the wargamers' life, right?
So, okay. This is a medieval Teutonic Knights against, the Novgorod people, what would become Russia. So why would that be something that would be interesting for me to play?
Why would that be interesting?
That was the question that I had when this game was announced. We saw this a couple of years ago
at Origins.
Very prototype form. Was it with Wendell Albright?
Wendell Albright, who is, I think, the lead developer for the project.
And is a super nice person, by the way.
And I'll be honest, Wendell took us through that game in probably 20 minutes.
I know. Crazy.
And I think it probably should have taken a good hour.
Yeah.
But I think walking away from that, I had a pretty good idea of what the game was.
At least
a decent idea.
And a good idea of what the game was trying to be.
Yes.
And I was like, oh, that's really interesting.
Yep. I remember thinking, is this going to be for me? After speaking with him. Not in a bad way.
No, I
but
agree with
is it something that we're going to get into?
Yeah. Because he showed us, and it was really cool looking, and he was talking about how, it's having all of these lords, and they have their own vassals, and it's levying these armies to do campaigns with, and all this supply stuff. And I'm like, mechanically, that sounds dope.
Yeah, absolutely.
But thematically, I'm like, it seems a little bit dry.
It potentially could be.
So 2 years later,
with a
we got a finished
final product,
and
it was pretty interesting.
It was very, very interesting.
We talked a lot about the game. We played this probably 3 or 4 hours. Mainly, all we're really trying to do was explore mechanisms. Siege, storm, the supply aspect, the levy concept, paying your lords and to keep them on the field and
how to sustain that in any way.
Yeah, the command deck, we were trying to understand how to, because we'll talk about that, but how to put that together so that it actually does what you want it to do. And guess what? It's like a diesel train getting going, and once you've built that command deck, it's very hard to change what you're going to do. Meaning, I decided I was going to do everything up here, and you moved away from there. Wow, that kind of messed up what I was going to do.
Guess I'm going to forge.
So just a lot of very interesting concepts that I thought worked together really well for an initial play, for an initial, rules review and read. I don't know. It's pretty interesting.
Yeah, so this is...
I liked it.
We just played one of the short introductory scenarios, and then we played around with as much of the rules as we could,
Right.
trying out new things.
Like I decided to do some sieges when in the scenario we did, sieges were useless.
They were meaningless.
Unless you had you trapped and then you could... But
Which-
I did sieges up here just because I wanted to see what did that mean?
Yeah.
How did it work
What's
mechanically?
the consequences of my
Yep.
actions? And most of that stuff was very thought-provoking.
Yes.
Some of it you're like, good gracious, this is so difficult. Or,
Yeah.
this is unbelievably punishing if I
Yes.
do this thing. I had an army, you had an army. I knew mine was a little bit weaker than yours, but I thought, sod it,
Yeah.
we'll roll some dice and see what happens.
Yeah.
That is not how this game works in any way, shape, or form.
Well, you cannot be careless,
No.
or you can't throw your troops away like we did. It was almost like our first battle was like you were just doing a skirmish to see, oh, what's going to happen, and
Yeah,
I
I
want to
just-
see how this works, and it did not go
I wanted
well.
to try out the rules, see what we
Yeah.
could bend, and see what happens if we try some things out. And it was like,
It's over.
It's turns on a knife edge, and you're
Yeah.
like, good gracious! Not only is my army completely gone
Obliterated.
because of a series of decisions that I made,
You can't get any more guys.
like that lord is now gone
Yeah.
and is totally out of the game.
Mm-hmm.
He will never be able to come back in the next couple of years, and I can never levy him back into
Yeah.
it. He is done.
Yeah.
So, out of my 7 lords that I have over the full campaign, I now have 6. I am more than decimated.
Yeah.
It's nuts. And so that's what a Nevsky offers. It is a very delicate system, and
I think that's a really insightful comment. A delicate
Yeah.
system. So what does that mean?
for me, it means it's really easy to totally screw yourself up and lose a game immediately. Not like immediately in the first turn, but like if you make a bad decision, or if you do something that's like very cavalier,
Yeah.
without enough resources or without enough forward thinking or the correct forces, like, not, you're not just going to lose a battle. Losing that
Potentially-
battle is going to have significant consequences for the rest of the campaign in the game.
Yeah. Only because you have such few resources.
Yes.
You really only have, like you said, up to 7 lords. And then those 7 lords, they have these battle sheets or whatever. These
And you're never going to
mats.
have them all out at the same time.
No, you're not. You can't afford to do that. And frankly, your command deck's only 6 to...
It's 4 to
8,
6 cards
yeah.
at most.
You're not going to be able... Why would you have 6 lords out there when you can only move...
Well, you wouldn't be able to pay any of them because
Yeah,
none of them will be able to
right.
get any money.
So it's... But on each of their sheets, they have a certain amount of troops that they can muster.
Yeah.
And once those troops die or leave you because you couldn't pay them, or
Yeah.
you can't get them back. It's not like they go to your ready box and you just say, I'm gonna pull them out next round.
Yeah. Well,
They're gone.
yeah, it's done.
They've lost faith in you. They've lost the ability to follow you. They're going to go off and they're going to try to make a buck some other way.
Or go back to their families.
Yeah, go back to their families, do their farms again. So it is very... delicate's a very good word. I like that word. I didn't think about that during our play, but the delicacy of the... And it's not intended in a negative way.
No.
It's meant to be that way.
Yes.
It's meant to be that way so you really think about what you are doing. And the theme of the game is planning and logistics.
Yeah.
Planning for what you want to do and how you want to do it, how you're going to get there. You have to buy these carts or these ships.
Or these sleds.
Which is in winter, you got to use sleds. You can't use carts anymore. You got to buy those things, and you got to think, oh, how many spaces am I away from my supply, my seat and my supply sources, or a port that I control? You got to think about that. Then you got to think about how much provender do I have? How much food do I have to feed my guys?
And how much access do I have to foraging to get more?
Yeah. You can get one, when you forage, you usually get one provender.
And if it's the winter, you don't get any.
Yeah. And you may have a need for 2 food to feed It's one lord and 6 vassals, right?
Yeah. So if you have 6 pieces,
it's one food.
And if it's more than 6,
if it's 7 pieces,
yeah,
you spend in it. How many times did we do that?
Yeah, you don't
because
food.
we levied too many guys, and it's like, oh, we shouldn't have brought that guy up. So those are things you got to think about. You've got to prepare and think about that stuff.
And doing that, I felt like I had to like scale back some of my other wargaming habits where I'm like,
no doubt,
get my force bigger and stronger. Get my force bigger and stronger. Yep. Boy, this is an operational level game, right? It's a supply game. You gotta feed your troops. The more troops you have, the more you gotta feed them. It might be better in a battle, but you gotta get them there, and then you gotta feed them after they fight.
Well, and just like you just said, it's really a mathematical formula that you're kind of going 1 provender for 6 guys. You don't want to overspend. You know, a lot of times in games, it's like you don't get change for that. Like I played Knights of Fire the other day, and it's like, you have to use a certain amount of out points. You don't get change back.
Yeah.
You don't get change for that food.
Nope.
So you can't be cavalier and waste it. A lot of planning. And this is a game, we talked about this as well as we were playing. You're only going to get out of this as much as you put into it.
Yes.
You're going to try to play this 3 or 4 different times, trying some different strategies and trying to understand the optimal routes, and then finally it's going to click, and then you could probably start being more effective and having more of an interaction. That was the other thing. During our battles, it was brutal, man.
I really liked it.
Oh, yeah. But like the siege stuff, you had walls that protected you on a roll of 3 or less. Or was it 4? No, those are your knights.
Yeah.
3 or less, a wall protected you from a wound.
Yeah, so that's what I enjoyed the most about this, unsurprisingly, was the combat.
Yeah.
It's very, very cool. It's simple enough once you look at the iconography and understand it. It's really not that complicated. But, you know, doing a field battle, defender rolls their archers, I roll my archers, defender rolls their cavalry, I roll my cavalry, defender rolls their melee foot units.
Well, and you don't even roll to hit, though.
No, you just
you're adding up your values, and each unit's going to do a certain amount of hits.
Yeah, I do X hits to you, and you roll.
You're rolling the defensive dice. Yeah,
but
which is different.
But then storming a castle works entirely differently. Mm-hmm. It uses some similar concepts, but instead of me just rolling my armor to protect from your hits, well, I've got my outer walls. Mm-hmm. So my outer walls have a 50-50 chance in the big cities of just bouncing all of your arrows and your hits.
I think you knocked out 7 of my hits.
I know, 7 out of 10.
It was amazing.
Just some good rolls can, I'm funneling you into that breach.
Yep.
And I've got my halberds and my pikes, and good luck getting in. And it's absolutely brutal, as you would expect 13th century combat to be.
Right.
And
they didn't have mortars or artillery. They really just, I mean, they had catapults and some, but it's harder to hit.
Storming a castle, though, it's just...
You had to get up close to kill people.
And then it's like burning barrels of pitch and tar being poured on you and all this mess.
It's just very, I think, evocative of the period and the concept. That's why it's called the Levy and Campaign series. It's based on how things would have worked 800 years ago. And I think Volko did a really good job of this system. I need to understand better how to get out of the system what I need it to do. And that's the way a lot of games are. But there's a lot to like here. And I know most people we've talked to have really liked this, or they've really said, this isn't my cup of tea.
I'll be honest, most people say, let's say the former. Right. Because you don't buy this game if you don't...
No, you don't spend the $80.
Most people didn't get it.
You're right.
Because it doesn't advertise itself as something that it's not.
No.
Most people who got this are like, good gracious, there is so much depth to this.
Yep, and there is.
To make it work and make it work well.
Yeah.
That it's... And it's also enjoyable. It's also worth that time investment to make this... the intricacies and delicacies work, and it's cool. It's very cool.
Well, we talked about this as well, but I think you're going to play this 4 and 5 times before you really get it.
I think. Or be much smarter than us.
Well, and that's true. That's probably
yeah,
more true. I mean, I got the concepts, but it's still understanding how in the heck do I get this to do what I need it to do?
How to make it work well. I'm
Yes.
like, I know what I should be doing,
Yeah.
but how do I actually do it?
So I think for a game on a subject that typically I wouldn't have much interest in, we're typicly World War II and...
If I was going to do medieval games, I'd want to at least have the English in it.
Yeah.
then I'd be like, oh yeah, I could get behind that.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is Teutons and, Kingdom of Novgorod. Like,
yeah.
Who
it's something we're not necessarily familiar
game?
with. Yeah.
Who does that?
Volko
does. And makes it interesting.
Makes it well and does the research and makes it period and feel and...
This is one of the first background books I've actually wanted to read.
Yeah, I'm going to read through it.
Because I know nothing about this.
Yep.
So I'm like, I will learn a good amount, and there's some pointers of books to read as well.
Yeah.
But also, it's got like examples of play, but it's like it's talked through, like it's him talking and reading it to you.
Yeah.
So it's like, this is why this is happening. This player's got a really tough choice to make between this and that, because this has this consequence and this has this consequence.
Yep.
And so that background book has a lot of good kind of cerebral thinking in there about the game. I'm like, okay, how do I do this? Let's walk through what these things mean in the grander sense of it. So I'm excited for that as well.
So another element that I really liked, I know this isn't necessarily a review, but the capability and event cards, the Arts of War card, I think is what they were called. You at the beginning of the game, you're going to look at the capability side, and those are like, for lack of a better word, superpowers, right? Special abilities. Your archers are better, or your horse archers get to...
Or you have horse archers.
Right. They turn into archers, or, I'm trying to think of your armor's better. And then later in the game, you're going to look at the event side, which is the top of the card.
Yeah.
And they're more one use. Oh, all of your knights this round get +1 strike in melee.
It was very interesting that you have this deck of cards. You will only ever use 2 of them as capabilities.
And my question of that was, well, why not allow more than that? And your answer was?
I think it would become too convoluted because... This guy's got this card, this guy's got this, and then I'd have 6 cards, you'd have 6 cards, and it would be a lot
hard to keep track of. You turn these guys into superheroes.
And it would be
That's not what the intent was. But that was a really well done.
Yeah, so you have a couple of like, this is the thing that I can do, and this is my additional power, and then you got these 2 events every time, and some of them are
really
very
good.
Cool. Some of them you can hang on to.
Well, one of them we talked a lot about was when you can't pay your lords. They go away for a season. And it usually is their command.
It's their service.
Their service
ratings,
number, which is
anywhere from
3 or
2
4,
to
2 to 4. So you're going to move that guy 40 days times 2 or 4 of those. It's like 3 months into the future before you have the opportunity to hire him again. But there's some of those events that say, oh, move one of your lords 2 to the left. Yeah. So it's like he
becomes available a little bit earlier.
You convince him, hey, the fight is really tough. We need your help. Please get in the game. And he's like, okay, I'll come and you can hire me. And, it's very neat how to game that part of the system as well. But yeah, you had to worry about feeding and paying, making sure you had enough carts and ships to get back to your supply sources, to get food. Just a lot of very interesting things. It's interesting. Sometimes I write those lists on the blog of best 3 games with X, right? I'm working on one with commands and colors right now. But, one of those in the future is going to be logistics.
Yeah.
And guess what? This game's going to be on it because that's a big, big part of what it's trying to do. And not to the level of, say, an OCS where you're counting hexes. It's a little simplified because it's areas.
But it's so necessary in this one.
Yeah, agreed. But it's a little different.
Yeah.
So anyway, I don't know. I really liked this. I want to play it again, and I want to play a bigger scenario and try to get out and stretch my legs a little bit.
One of my favorite parts of this was the command cards.
Yes.
Because you've got these, lords on the board, but how you activate them is through a series of command cards. Each lord has 3 cards that are associated with them. So if I've got 3 lords, I've got 9 cards available to me, 3 for each one. In the summer, I'm going to choose 6 of those cards. So someone's not doing anything, or everyone's doing only a little bit.
Yep.
In the winter, it gets even worse. You get
4
down to like
cards.
4 cards. So you can't do a lot in those seasons. But if I've got my 6 cards, I don't have 6 cards. I choose 6 of my 9 cards or whatever, and then I have to put them in the order in which I wish to activate them. Put that in a stack, and I cannot change it.
Yep.
And
You're committing to something.
I love it. I love it so much. That little mini game reminds me of Star Wars Armada. Did you ever play that?
Yeah, we played that. Yep.
Where
you decide to turn before you actually
decide to
turn.
Four turns ahead on those Star Destroyers
because they take 4 hours to turn.
Yeah.
So,
but it's that same concept where you're programming all your orders of, or at least all your activations at least.
Yeah.
And so you're like, oh, I want to do this thing, and then you do something. I'm like, oh crap.
Yeah.
The tactical situation has changed so much that I'm like, oh no, this card is not what I need to do right now.
Yep.
But it's not random. You chose to do that.
Well, you still have flexibility in how to use that card.
But it might not be the right one. It might
may
be
have not.
I was banking on something else happening, or
like for instance, I think one of the first moves I made in the game was I moved. I can't remember his name. What's his name? Knud.
He was Knud and Abel.
Abel from this port up here to begin a siege because I just wanted to see what was going to happen, and I think you had not planned on that. You had planned on me kind of moving down here first, so You move these guys, and it still worked out for you, but I felt like, ooh, I'm protected. I can kind of do what I want up here because I don't think he used this guy to do anything.
And it's that tiny little bluffing game at the beginning of each campaign where you're like, oh, I think he's going to do that, so I'm going to put this card. I think he's going to do that, so I'm going to do this card. It's
very cool.
Those little bits are things that, like, sing to me. I love that kind of stuff in games. Just because it's just this extra fun little...
Yeah.
Oh, what do I think's going to happen?
What other games we've played. Well, there's a lot of different
There's a bunch of, like,
games.
non-war games that do that. But I that's something that I enjoy a lot. And having that in a war game, I'm like, this is cool. I like it a lot.
So let's talk about one more thing. So the art and production on this game is really top-notch.
Yeah, I love the board.
Well, it's very thematic.
I think it's got all these wooden pieces, different types of units.
The art on the cards is fantastic. These are really amazing player aids. I mean, in a bifold player aid, you can generally...
That has pretty much everything on it.
Everything on it, exactly. Very well done. They use wood bits, so it feels like a Euro-style game, like a coin game, because you have some wooden bits. Now, we have a divergent opinion on the cover. What do you think about the cover?
So...
And this has been talked about a lot on many
This is not my favorite cover. I'm going to preface this by saying this doesn't matter at all. Because...
Right.
Which is also not true. But who cares about the cover artwork? The game's really good. And the game looks great. Yeah. This looks like a medieval fever dream.
A what? Say that again.
It looks like a medieval fever dream. Okay. I don't look at that case. It looks like
it
looks like I dropped a bunch of acid and then I listened to prog rock and then went LARPing.
I can see that.
Okay. And the only reason that would irk me, and it doesn't, is that this game is so good.
Mm-hmm. You can overlook that.
I don't think that this is going to draw someone to it. I know you say don't judge a book by its cover,
right?
But we all do it.
We do,
and it's just not my favorite. That's all.
Well, and I actually enjoy the cover. Is it my favorite? No, but I feel like it's a risk, a big risk.
Yes, and I applaud that.
I do
absolutely.
I defended this probably 6 months ago on Twitter, and I got torn apart, but. We could have seen a line of cavalry and some archers behind them and some knights out in a field fighting. How many times have we seen that, right? I mean, this is a different vision of what this game is. And to me, it's very very indicative of what's in the box. You know, there's a boat there that's carrying supplies back and forth, and you know, there's a castle there that you're trying to break into, and that's what I see. And then I see this big
undead king of the mountain.
Well, he's a really cool Teutonic knight who looks like a total, you know, tough guy.
It is, you know.
And then there's this beautiful picturesque reflection, and then you got your German knights lined up on the boat. Who doesn't like this company?
A lot of people.
I think it's really interesting.
But who cares?
It's a risk. It was a risk, and I think it's cool.
It boils down to like, who cares? The game is
good.
Fascinating.
Yeah,
I love it, and it's got a lot of stuff to learn and to really think about. This is a very cerebral game.
Agreed.
And that lends itself to putting more time into it.
Yes.
You'll get more out of it. Especially if you're at a similar skill level to someone. Because I think if you played a few levels up, someone's going to kill you.
They would crush you.
Game.
They'd move, and you'd be like, "Why are you moving
This
there?"
Is a game
I see.
I would not want to play with Volko.
Yeah, he would.
I would not want to play him
you.
at any game because he would destroy. But this one especially.
But I would love to play with him because that would be a treat.
It would be
just like when we played with Mark.
It would be an honor to be raffle stomped at this game.
Raffle stomped,
but it would be
like
a very short game.
You're Rick rolled. Yeah. I agree with you. I look forward to being able to play this one again.
Yes, so
definitely.
This is just kind of some first thoughts. We have a lot more to play with this game, and we are going to play some of the more extended campaigns where there's a bit more on the line than in some of these introductory scenarios. And
we never even got to the winter.
No,
where you have to convert your carts to sleds. So cool.
That's the only other thing. This is a long game.
Yes.
If you're playing the full campaign, she's not a short one.
I would guess it's 8 hours plus, 8 to 12 hours. Yeah.
But
it would be worth it.
It's very, very well, and probably most games are going to be over before then.
I would agree
because it's very easy for something to go dramatically wrong.
And that guy,
and you'd be like,
you're handicapped, and
no big deal.
Well, I had a good time with this. I'm glad we played it. I'm glad I have it. I'm looking forward to exploring it. I definitely am.
You will see more of this from us in the future. Appreciate you guys tuning in. You will see a full review soon. It's just some introductory thoughts. But thanks very much for watching. This has been Nevsky from GMT Games, and I've been Alexander from thePlayersaid.com.
And I'm Grant.